Welcome to Traveling with a Chair with Ken and Cheryl Edmonds. Okay, so we're walking down Canal Street toward the riverfront. We just walked about 2.5 blocks down Dauphine Street to get to Canal from the Holiday Inn Express that we're staying at. One of the things that is characteristic of the sidewalks in this part of New Orleans is that they're slanted toward the street. They're fairly flat, but they slant down toward the street. So you're constantly fighting against that slant if you're pushing a wheelchair. One of the other things that makes this a real challenge is that you can see the sidewalks are mostly made up of cobblestones, and the cobblestones are definitely not smooth. Worst case is that some of them are actually missing, and so if you're going along with a wheelchair and you run into one that's missing, it becomes a real sudden issue, especially if you're not paying close attention. As we're walking along Canal Street, my wife found several little shops. In that case, it was a little restaurant, quite interesting. It's very much a touristy type of town. And so the things that you see as you're moving along Canal Street are a lot of tourist-related items. Over on the left, we just went by the French Quarter. There in the distance, you can see a streetcar, and we'll actually ride one of those streetcars a little later in the day. We've crossed over the street to get from Canal Street, where it dead ends, to get to the Riverwalk area. This was kind of a challenge getting into it. There's a lot of construction in this area right now. We took a couple of tries walking into areas we couldn't get through. Once we found the path in, what you'll see as we go along in our journey over toward the Riverwalk outlet mall area is that it's quite a hike. There's a lot of distance that gets traversed going through this. And as I mentioned, it's not the best of conditions as far as the way the road goes. You do see a lot of people using wheelchairs and scooters. There's a ramp coming up here over on the right. We'll go down. But this is normal speed as we're going along here. And we'll go down this ramp, and then we'll have a journey off to the right here. As we're going along, what we'll see is that we're going right along the Mississippi River. There's a stern wheeler up there ahead to the left. Out in the river to our left, there is a barge going downstream. We tried to get a shot from it. Wasn't very easy for Cheryl from the chair. You can see it right there in the distance. But we're headed in toward the Riverwalk area. Okay, so we're starting to get a little better view of both the Riverwalk, which is right there ahead and to the right, and then of this stern wheeler that does dinner cruises and just other tours up and down the Mississippi River. You can see people lined up. There's a kiosk that we're selling tickets. We just entered the Riverwalk Mall, and I'm going to go ahead and we've jumped upstairs. Just a little picture there of the entrance. Now we're walking through the food court. I decided the easy way to do the video was to go ahead and show from the top down. So as we're walking along here, I've got the video speeded up a little bit because it is a very long walk down this hallway with all of the food operations there. And you can get just about anything that you can think of. On the right, there's a large area with seats and windows. You get just a glimpse of it there off to the right, where you can sit there and eat your food and watch the Mississippi go by. The interesting thing is that this is exactly the same area where they put the where they tie the ships up. So we're going along, just taking a quick glance at some of the stores. Like I said, a lot of food operations, a lot of options there for food. We also found quite a few other things that were interesting. We found a Linder outlet where we bought enough Linder chocolates to last probably for the next 6 months, and we saw a fudge factory and thought about going in, but we were good and stayed away from the fudge factory. I did buy a couple of pair of Crocs at the Croc outlet here in the mall. I wanted a couple of things for water related activities. So if I went to the beach or when I went to the pool, I had something that wouldn't get wet and stay wet like my tennis shoes that I was wearing would do. And we're just kind of going to go right on down through here, see an idea of the stores that are available for the ladies that like to shop and for the men that like to shop as well. There's quite a few places in here where you can go shopping, find a wide variety of things that may be useful to you. The mall spreads out actually over 3 levels. Right now we're on the 3rd level. We're getting ready to head down toward the elevator where we'll go downstairs. I got distracted by this. I think they're called splat balls. They look like balloons. You throw them and they land flat and then they turn right back into round-shaped balloons. I'm not sure how that works, but it was fun watching for a minute or two. Anyway, like I said, we're headed down toward the elevator. And this elevator where we're going in right now is just about a half elevator down. It's not really a full flight of steps down out of the elevator, and we're going to go along and look at some more of the shops. They are really good in this mall about being handicapped accessible. There's either really nice ramps or there's elevators to get you from one spot to the other. I did think it was really interesting that it was a challenge getting here, but once you're inside, it's a really nice facility, and we enjoyed shopping in it. The one thing, you'll see some kiosks in the center, and the one thing I'll say is it reminded me a lot of going to third world countries where people want you to buy their stuff, because the people at these little pop-up shops were pretty persistent about wanting Cheryl to try their makeup remover or their things for the bags under your eyes. They had pretty much a non-stop pitch that they were trying to get you to buy what they had to sell. And now we're going down to another elevator, down the elevator and out. We're on the bottom floor. And we're actually headed out of the mall now. We're going to go out to Canal Street, and there's a streetcar station that's right across from where we get out of the Riverwalk area. And what we'll do is there we'll catch a streetcar that runs along the riverside, and we'll have a chance to travel over toward the French Market area. We thought that that would be a good choice for our dinner for the evening, so that's where we're headed. We're on the streetcar now. The streetcar is very easily handicapped accessible, and a little later in the video I'll show you Cheryl getting out of the streetcar. You can see the ramp right there that when we first got on the streetcar and it started out, it was kind of an industrial area right there along the port, but very quickly we got out into an area that was let's say a little more park-like. There seemed to be parks along the riverbank. The levee's a little bit high, so we didn't have great views of the river as we're riding along, but it was just a very nice ride. It's probably a couple of miles, it seemed like, to get over to the area that we're headed for. But it was a pleasant ride. We had a nice sunny day. There you can see some docks and some walkways where the individuals can get out and walk over the river. You can also see the river there in the distance. Again, just some of the view we had. We were stopped at a station here, and so we tried to get a little bit more of the scenery. We're starting up again. And we're going to just ride here along the river for a little ways. There were several stops where we'd stop for a minute or two, people would get on and off, and then we'd pick up and off we'd go again. Now we're coming into our last stop where we get off, and here they've got the ramp out. They're getting ready to let Cheryl out of the streetcar and down to ground level. Like I said, this was probably the most handicapped accessible thing we found that was operated by the city of New Orleans. As we go for our ride over into the French Market area, you'll see what I mean about the streets and the unevenness and how rough they can be at times. Okay, so we're walking along. We're now actually in the French Market area. We decided the way the sun was set up earlier that we would film on the way back rather than the way in, because the sun was kind of shining right into the camera. The French Market area is kind of beat up, and what we found is that most of the restaurants, in fact, I think with the exception of the hot dog place we ate lunch, all of the restaurants don't serve food till about 5 o'clock. And it was about 3 or 3:30 that we were in this area. And so we're just giving you a show of what it was like as we walked through there. Quite an interesting and eclectic bunch of little shops and bars and restaurants. A little bit of music out of some of them, but the ones that did have live music still weren't serving food. So we had stopped at a very interesting hot dog shop and had some different kinds of, let's say, Cajun types of hot dogs for dinner. In fact, that's it across the street right there. That's where we ate. Anyway, it was, like I said, it was quite a walk in. The place that we were intending to eat was recommended by the desk clerk at the Holiday Inn, but it was closed. So we were hungry and by now starting to get a little tired. We've been up since really early this morning, so we just decided to walk through, and then we're headed back now toward the hotel. They had these little bike rental stations in several different places around, and not sure exactly how it works. This is the New Orleans Jazz History Museum, and I have no idea why when I filmed this that the name comes out backwards, but it did. Just a second, you'll see a good example of what made pushing a wheelchair around so challenging. We're getting ready to come up on the entrance here, and we're going to change orientation a little bit, and so you can get an idea of how rough it really is, and you see that from the. So we're headed back to the hotel now, and we're actually going to show you the next morning what the hotel room we stayed in was like. And this is a Holiday Inn Express on Dauphine in near the French Quarter. Very typical Holiday Inn Express room. In this case, it was handicapped accessible. We had plenty of room to get in with the wheelchair. Cheryl could park her chair there. Even with all of the luggage and everything out that we had with us, wasn't hard to get around the room at all. The room had all the typical amenities for a Holiday Inn Express. Television had quite a few channels on it, Keurig coffee maker, microwave, closet we didn't use. We just unpacked enough to get through the night and have clean clothes for the next morning. Handicap bathroom had a comfort height toilet with plenty of grab bars. Worked really well for my wife. There is one thing that I didn't understand about this. This is a handicapped room, and we have a bathtub. It's a shallow bathtub, but we still have a bathtub rather than a roll-in shower or something without a lip. There were a lot of grab bars, so Cheryl was able to get in and out of the bathtub without any issue. One thing that I did notice, and we'll actually take a look at it here. I'm going to go out in the hallway and show you. If you look on the floor down there on the blue to the right, you'll see there's little scraps of paper. That stuff was there when we checked in, and it's still there when we're checking out. And that would be the one thing that I saw. The hotel is really conveniently located if you wanted to do some sightseeing. We were about, let's say, 5 blocks from the French Quarter. The view out the window wasn't much to look at, pretty much parking lot and office buildings. There in the distance you can see a full service Holiday Inn, so if you're looking for something a little more upscale, you could stay there. For us, it was really convenient. It made the walk down to the Riverwalk, and there was a lot of shopping along Canal Street, so we thought this was a really good location, and it was also really quick to get from there to the terminal. So it just made as far as we were concerned, as good a location as you could find to stay for one night pre or post cruise.
Thank you for watching Traveling with a Chair. If you've enjoyed this YouTube video, please don't hesitate to hit the like and the subscribe button. It'd help us out in a big way. We'll see you again soon.